Recording this computer. Okay. Hi guys. Here
Hi.
with me, I've got Ginger
Hi.
and I've got Anthony Perks. Now, Anthony is one of our subscribers to the channel, and we were having a bit of a chat the other day, and we decided to have a chat all together. So I'll just give you a brief overview of a little bit of what we were talking about, or what we'll be talking about. The first bit is Anthony's very unusual perception, or not unusual, I shouldn't say. I kind of completely agreed with what he was saying. Perception of the pop-up world. We're going to be talking about the divine feminine emerging. We're going to be talking about monsters under the bed. We're going to be giving thanks to the demiurges. Talking a bit about labels and ADHD, and we're going to be talking about the Mr. Smiths popping up in the world. So I'd like to start by Anthony talking about what he was just saying before about his perception of what the pop-up world is. Cue
Yeah,
Anthony.
so I see it like this. Obviously, we get presented with a particular idea, and that idea is a globe. Now, as we know, as you awaken, you get to see that everything obviously is illusion and everything is inverted. So when these things are presented to us, we obviously see that it's not that, it's something completely different. So we will seek and we'll go down different rabbit holes to seek where our truth lies. A lot of people will then jump onto what was called the flat earth, which in my perception would be another rabbit hole, or there will be truth in it for sure. But that will be another psyop to keep you into other illusions. Now, obviously, there is something in it, of course, because part of the plane that we perceive to be real in this illusion will look flat and can be measured scientifically as flat. So you'll get a lot of people going down that route and actually getting to the point where they're actually seeing scientific fact and saying, look, it's flat, it really is. But they get stuck there. And I went through that process probably around 2014, 2015. I went through that for a little while. And what I would do is I would go down rabbit holes and then sort of sit with it and not put any judgment or any opinion to that. I might have at the time once I'm going through the process, have an opinion and judgment about it, soon come away from that and pull yourself back. What transpired after those journeys was that I've had a long history of sort of doing a lot of meditation, a lot of plant medicine, done psychedelics for over 35 years, and a lot of shamanic ways and whatever else. So in those other realms where you are predominantly on the astral, you are presented with different ideas and you're seeing different perceptions and how you look at stuff. So I brought that forward as well into what I was being presented with. On the shamanic journey, a what I can only describe as a very powerful divine feminine aspect made its presence known to me very early on, a couple of decades ago. And it was within that process of the unfoldment of this illusion that it took a long time to actually get to this realization that the realm, what we call Earth, where we live, is what I call the Divine Mother's tree. It's all tree in its physical manifestation. All of it is tree. And that in a tree, when you sort of look at the microcosm and the macrocosm and pull back, if you had some sort of microscope to look, you will see like a neural network.
Yeah, because it's
And you
like
will see,
branches, isn't it? It's like a
yeah,
branch over here and a branch over here and a branch up here and then the branch up the branch up the branch. And that's basically
exactly that.
the way that the mind works as well. It's got to have a
Exactly that. Yeah,
foundational place to come from. So go ahead.
yeah,
And the
exactly
as
that.
above, so below is well
Yeah,
represented here. Also, the reflection, because the roots is like the subterranean neural network.
yeah. Yeah. So if we have the analogy of the Divine Mother's mind, and all those neural networks are all sort of going out. And when you get a picture of the actual of the mind itself, you'll see, we've all seen the pictures, like it looks like a tree roots, and then the mind, all the neural networks look like the branches and the trees and the roots going off. That's what got presented to me. So in my search for where do we live, how is it presented, and how do we see it in our imagination, but what really is the truth? Now I'm only going to come from my truth and what it presented to me, which was all the nodes from the neural networks, billions and trillions and uncountable, are all different worlds, all different earths, all part of the same tree. But on these nodes, there's just billions and trillions of all different earths. And while most of them were free and were inhabited by all different shapes and sizes of beings, and also different types of physicality and different densities of physicality, some of them that I see were enslaved. And enslaved by what I'll call a parasite, which a hell of a lot of people do call it a parasite. There's a guy called Paul Levy who wrote a book called Wetiko, who calls the parasite Wetiko, with the Native American Indians used to call it Wetiko.
Yeah, absolutely.
But predominantly we'll just call it a parasite. And then that can be mainstream words for that are demiurge, Yaldabaoth, archons, even the greys. That can be like sort of a conservative sort of stance on the name for it. So these beings, if you like, I call them pirates, where this neural network is enlaced through what I will say is plasma or plasma energy. So all the networks are all plasma energy and is all interconnected. It's all within water, divine water. So they seem to get around using however methods they get around in the waters. They're using whatever. I don't want to say like ships or craft or because it's not like that. But they're using water to move around.
Would it help to drink more water? Like, would drinking more water throw them off course?
Funny you should say that, because I actually drink less water than I do now, because the system says drink 6 glasses a day. And if the system's saying drink more water, then I'm going to say why? Predominantly probably because it's poisoned, so you need to purify your water.
Yeah.
So they're going to try and get more tech in you, or more parasites or whatever else. But
anytime they tell us it's good for us, we should probably get curious and question it. So they tell us we should drink a lot of water, but in fact, what we're doing is we're urinating all our minerals out.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we're required to have a lot of water to operate. I do think that the symptoms of dehydration are really noticeable. You can easily detect it by taking your hand and taking a piece of your skin and watching to see how quickly or slowly it bounces back. Obviously, age is a factor as our skin gets looser, but it's not hard to detect. And you can do this with your pets too. I just recently had a dog dehydrate, and it was the same thing. His scruff didn't go back. So I just, gently pulled on his scruff, and I noticed that it took some time for it to go back where it should have gone straight away. And so we can do we can analyze our own well-being without being told by some entity that everyone is the same and that we always need. Do what feels right, folks.
Okay, so can I ask you what you meant about the different worlds and how some of the, like, on this, I've got this, did I share the screen, by the way? I did, didn't I?
Yeah.
Okay, so on this picture, I've got like these different worlds, technically, that you could be in this world at the moment, you could be in this world at the moment. So we're going to go like the purple world or the red world or the blue world or the green world or the yellow world. So it could be in any of those given one moment in our current perception. And then you're saying that pirates might enter or live in that world or something. Is that what you're saying? Like The parrots don't live in this world, but they live in that world.
I would microscopically go further into that. Say you've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there. It's going to be billions and trillions upon trillions within those that are on separate nodes that are individual worlds.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Some
I
might
see,
call it the matrix.
yeah. So I see it like it's all separated by water, divine water. So they are transversing this water somehow, and that's why I'll call them pirates, because they enslave us with maritime law as well and trust law.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're
Yeah.
using law, natural law, inverting it and using maritime law, which is law of water, divine water, pulling it onto land, onto the tree, and using it against us to enslave us. And they go around doing this over many different realms, worlds, whatever you want to call them. And Mother, who we reside within, this divine mind, she's trying to rid this parasite, this infection that's happened to her, and she's doing it through us. She does it through us. Now, it's not just through us, partly through us. And as we awaken, generally when you awaken, what happens is you are presented with your traumas, your programs, and your beliefs and your issues to balance that back out, to rid yourself of trauma, to come back to the divine essence that you are. And that divine essence of what you are has morality at its core, has compassion, has empathy, has all these things that we actually revere as truth. As that truth.
Can I can I interrupt?
We find the truth in the trauma.
Can I interrupt for a minute? Because the word morality to me, there's two equivalents to it: morality and ethics, right? Morality, in definition, to me, is another person's judgment of, like, if I go and sleep with 10 men tonight, that would be immoral, according to some people. I'm not going to go and sleep with 10 men tonight, by the way. But
yeah, but to your,
you never know, Ken. You never know.
That's right.
I mean, it's still early. It's still early.
Yeah, it's only it's 9:04, and all the pubs are shut on Russell Island. So,
well.
I'm not sure where I could find 10 men.
Kim, and I get where you're coming from, Kim, and I do get we are in duality, and there is a play on words, and there is a play between what one could be described as moral and immoral, and it's a play of negative and positive polarities. But we are playing in duality.
I just love ethics rather, because ethics are internal. I mean, I don't care if Ginger goes out and sleeps with 10 men tonight. It makes no difference to me at all. But
I'm
morally,
too tired for that.
You've got more hours in the day. You got more time to find 10 men. But morally, I wouldn't have a problem with that. Ethically, it's got nothing to do with me. This is just me being, sorry, carry on. Sorry,
well, it's people's perceptions. It's like I had a person come into a wellness store once, and they looked at the pentagrams and they said, "Ooh, oh, that's bad, that's bad." I said, "Is it?" And I said, "Because that's what they put on our schoolwork when we do good." I said, "Isn't it?" Isn't that a good thing? You know, the star in the sky. And she never came back. She used to stop in periodically to question and torment and poke holes in our mysticism. And it didn't work out for her that day because it's in her bubble too. And she just doesn't perceive it the same way when she sees it on somebody's schoolwork.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so shift your perception. Is it an evil symbol? Why are we putting it there then?
Yeah. Okay.
I want to come back to the tree. Anthony, I was taking notes when you were talking. Tree, Trinity, tree is the way you would say three in some places. And so the Trinity comes to mind. Now, going back to the actual tree, you've got the earth in the middle. So it's just like us. We've got the crown, the root, and the heart. And the heart is an anagram for the earth. So here we are in the middle. We're not flat. We're not round. We're not what they've told us, that's for sure. Anytime we get these official propaganda narratives, start questioning it, and really use your perception to perceive what is in your pop-up world. Kim calls it pop-up world, you call it Divine Mother and a cell, and I refer to it as the Imaginarium because I think we can create it as we go. And that's what I would love for the empaths of the world to put their energy into. But I think we're still dealing with a great amount of shock and awe. Like we're
Yeah.
still like trying to figure out how to drive this thing. And like, how many perceptions can we possibly have? Well, it's limitless. It's limitless. We're all unique. And so, but if we could sing one song about one thing, I'm very curious to witness that. And so, yeah, the tree, the three, it's about bringing three forces of energy together. So uh, the ego, and so it's spirit, ego, and heart. And it's allowing that heart to open to both those energies because right now it's closed. And this whole year is about opening it.
What do you
Yeah.
think? What do you guys think we need the ego for?
Say that again, Ken.
What do you think we need the ego for?
The ego creates our unique fingerprint. Without the ego, we would be automatrons. We would be robotic. The ego is there to say, are you kidding? You're not going to get away with that. The ego is a very important energy in our story that, again, the opposition, the controlled opposition would have us slay the dragon, slay the ego. No, no. The ego for me has the same energy of the unmet needs of a 5-year-old. Now, a 5-year-old is oftentimes silent, go to your room and, go play and not necessarily heard or understood well. And their needs are not always met. And with that, they become maybe having a tantrum, And so to me, the ego and the tantrum are quite similar forces of energy.
I had a random moment last night where I was angry and I couldn't remember what it was I was angry about. I'm thinking, why do I feel angry? What what's happened? Like, have you ever had that? Like a free floating moment of anger for no apparent reason at all?
I've activated my silly dragon. So lately it's been a silliness, not anger. But I
Okay.
have had that experience, Ken, yeah.
Have you, Anthony, have you had that random anger for
Funny, funny you should say that because I've had some anger issues come up the last few days, and today that's why I went out for a walk. And when you messaged, that's why I was outside to just go back down with nature.
okay. So why do you think
So
we need the ego, Anthony? What's your take on that?
Um, who's to say we have an ego?
Okay.
that's a good point.
It's just
I
it's just a concept and an idea.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Very true.
Well, the
It
ego could be called a demiurge in some instances because there are times when you get to crossroads or you get to series of your life where you don't take the plunge because your ego says you're not good enough.
yeah.
What would you call
Yeah.
that? Would you call that the demiurge, or would you say,
It's going to be contrived into a mix up of everything. So you're going to get the entities prodding and poking you at some level. You're going to be running limiting belief systems. You're going to be running MK Ultra programming, and you're going to be running unresolved childhood issues. So it's a mismatch of all that mess that, if we're going to call it an ego, that's what I feel is coming out, and we'll call it a personality. We'll put a name to it that we've had given to us at birth, and we'll put our name to that mess, if you want. It's not all a mess. Obviously, there's divine substance in it all that is can be tapped into. But when we're sort of looking at it as said ego, yeah, I see the ego as something along the lines of that, like your programs, your belief systems, your unresolved childhood issues, and these things that you're told you are as by school and TV and your peers as you grew up. You got told that that's what you are. You took on those beliefs, and this whole construct that I call the world, not the tree or the earth, is run by a belief system.
Yes, and either we fit into that belief system or we don't. It's my belief that 75% of kids don't fit there. We said we were going to talk about labels and such. Kim,
Yep.
is this a good segue into that?
Yeah, we can tick off
Yeah,
labels here. Okay, so go on to
yeah.
what earlier you were saying about
So
ADHD and
therefore,
stuff.
then 75% of children in schools are labeled, or disqualified as fitting into that section, that portion of the population that is um, that is willing and able to just push the buttons, to just follow directions. I can't follow a direction. I get lost because I have so many questions. Each time you say, okay, do this, I have to know why, you know? And so I'm that interrupting kid in the classroom. I learn well from videos because I can stop, pause, rewind, and come back and say, okay, what'd you say? Let me look at that again. I was distracted. How many times did children get labeled as disabled? And I disagree. I think that their highly sensitive superpowers are not attuned, and that they're being told that they're not right when they're in fact amazing.
And
A
you
lot are telepathic and super empaths and able to identify the truth from a lie, and just the perceptions are enormous.
you were looking at the word abnormal, right? And
Yes,
breaking that down to AB normal. So what does that mean? Does that mean AB? Does that mean you're firing on both sides of your brain because you're abnormal? Because
it seems
you
that way. The alpha, the beta, the AB normal. So if you're firing left and right, that kind of is a really good goal, I feel. Like, to not be to anything on the spectrum. To me, the spectrum is very left or right. And like, it's one extreme to another. So we can have that with femininity and masculinity, or we can have that with anger and peacefulness. We can have very extreme opposites in this realm. And having said that, that's where I think the ego fits, because it's part of that. Um, it's the part that we don't want anybody to see. It's the part that we keep masked. It's the part that we don't want to hear it. We want to. Some of us want to slay it, and it's the child within us that we're ignoring, and it's an energy that won't be ignored. And so, whether we call it the ego or an energy is kind of irrelevant. I think it's there for most of us because we live in this polarized opposite world. And you can't have one without the other, it seems here. Like, there's spirit, and then, as I think you're calling it, Antony, the demiurge. And so, and would it be fair to say that the ego and the demiurge are the same to you?
In its negative aspect, yes, I would agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
and like you said, if if the ego is such a thing, that that sort of condensed energy, if we want to call it an ego, does have its place to help you along. I've watched it help me along. If we want to, if we, like I said, I get funny with words and labels.
Yeah.
Labels are a hard thing when we sort of label stuff. That we condense it down into a form, and we're formless beings. When we
Yes.
put stuff into a form and we label it, and we said it as fact, and then we got something to hold on to, but we've actually got nothing to hold on to. There's nothing really here. It's just a said
It's a,
illusionary dream.
it's a pop-up world,
Yeah, the pop-up world. Yeah, it just pops up out of our consciousness for
the
sure.
way we call it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it does. It seems to have a place for sure. It seems to want to, even if it uses its like fear. I don't know. Where am I trying to go? To get you out the way of the bus, it will use fear to drive you out the way of the bus for to keep you out of danger, to keep the body going, and whatever else. Some people say that may be still a bad thing, because there's a lot of people out there that don't want to be in the body anymore. They just want to go home, and they don't want to reside here. They're tired, they're exhausted from it all, and they feel they're getting um, hassled every day, and pushed and prodded by the demiurge, by Agent Smiths, by life in general, whatever else. But that could be a, a, a place for us to step into our power, a place to, what I always say thank you to archons and demiurge, always. I've said thank you to him for a long, long time, and I've been cussed out for it many times. Why are you saying thank you to the evil? What, and I would not condone evil. Why would I? I would never condone evil. But I don't know the bigger picture. I never have known the bigger picture. And does anyone really know the bigger picture? So I try to pull myself back and say thank you, because it does seem that they do help with presenting me, especially if I can only talk about my journey, with a deeper level of the onion, that layer that may be hidden in a trauma or a program or something that needs to be healed, or come up to my conscious to be looked at, to be let go of or released. And this is why I say thank you to them, to help that process along. Am I wrong?
And
I
in
very well
that,
could be. Where I'm at.
when you're
I don't
having one of
think
those,
you're wrong at all. I don't think you're wrong.
when you're having one of those like moments of like trying to get things out, like revealed, that's when the agent Smiths turn up in the world, you know, like the
Yes.
woman in the supermarket having a discussion about the Kabbalah, you know, and then you go back the next day and she doesn't know anything about what you spoke about yesterday. She's looking at you like you've got two heads, but you've spoken to her yesterday about the Kabbalah. And she's
Mhm.
going, "What's the Kabbalah?" And I'm going, "Well, we talked about it yesterday."
Yeah.
No. And that was the Agent Smith thing that you were referring to earlier, that how the world that you live in, and the Agent Smiths generally, like Ginger wouldn't come in as an Agent Smith, right? Because I know Ginger well, so she wouldn't be another character. But the Agent Smith to me would be the person in the supermarket, or the person at the petrol station, or the person at the or the neighbor that I hardly ever speak to that walks the dog. They would be the Agent Smiths, but they come into my world either
Yeah.
to provoke me,
Hmm.
to take me deeper.
Yeah.
So maybe seeing a neighbor walking the dog, but the dog's not on a lead and the dog attacks me and bites me. And then why did that happen? What was, you know, what was the message there? Rather than being angry with the neighbor for having the dog off the lead. Do you understand what I
Mm.
mean?
I
Like,
Yeah.
think we're electromagnetic beings of light. So when you spoke of the grays earlier, I think we are the grays. Because really, look at us. If without, sun and color, and like we're kind of gray, like without a little pigment, we don't already have a lot of pigment, some of us.
Right.
And without a little pigment, we're kind of on the gray scale, you know?
Yeah.
And so, but that spectrum of light is what is unique about us. So we receive it differently because we're also magnetic. So
Mm.
something like that, Kim, you are magnetically attracting, especially MA is maritime, it's water, it's mother. And so it's emotional and it's deep. And it's that stuff that I find most of us want hidden. And we don't want anybody to know any of that. And we don't want to look at it. We want to pretend it away. It didn't, we want to tell some other story about it, I guess, maybe, and work on everything else. Give myself so many distractions that I just flood that stagnant cesspool. Are you with me? So then we go out into the world and we magnetically attract that, and we
Yeah.
wonder why. It's about clearing all that, all the energies that we have. The electric, what is electric? Our ego. Our ego is electric, energy go. It's what animates us. It's what provokes us. It's the chaos.
okay, I want to ask
It's the
Anthony.
unresolved traumas.
Yeah.
I want to ask Anthony about what he meant by the divine feminine emerging from his perspective.
Mhm.
When I was talking earlier, when I said about um, doing a lot of plant medicine, the feminine energy was revealed to me on very deep DMT journeys, very very high dose. And I could manage to break through for what the Gnostics would call the pleroma, our true home. Um, what I felt like I said, it maybe took around 10 years for that to unfold, to continue doing these
Yeah.
internal plant medicine journeys and then do my own internal work, was that myself being a male, and in that male energy predominantly all my life, but I've always had a very sensitive, feminine, effeminate side to me that wants to come out, that can get suppressed a lot from, usual being on Earth.
Yeah.
So
Is that mainly
she,
affectionate? Is that mainly expressed as affection?
um, yes, but there will be many different elements to it. Creativity is a feminine energy behind that, but the male aspects as well will take action with that. So there's always a balance. So what it felt was it felt like that side of the feminine has been so suppressed. Like I said, just my personal journey, and this obviously comes out into the macrocosm. My journey felt so suppressed in its feminine that energy wanted to burst out of me through me somehow in whichever ways she could. And I allowed that. I started to allow that to come through. I allow it with tears. I don't care for crying. I don't hold it back as a male. I cry when I need to. I do that process. I will allow that all to come through me in a way where I would like to maybe work on one day with guys to allow that to happen so they can express that, because it's all that pent up stuff. Like I said, you're not doing the internal work and you're getting distracted and whatever else, you're going to cause yourself all these problems, all this tension. You're going to lock up, and then we're where we've always been. Allowing this feminine, this divine mother to awaken through us, I feel, is what creates more balance. Because if you look around in this patriarchal system we find ourselves in, it's all phallus symbol everywhere, right?
Mhm.
Is because they're suppressing the feminine energy, not necessarily females, they're suppressing the feminine energy because it is life itself. It is the creativity, it is the compassion. No feminine wants war.
No.
Male energy wants action and war. Yeah.
Yeah.
And while I'm never going to diss the male, because I'm playing this part, I'm playing this avatar, I'm doing this, yeah. The balance, I feel, if there's going to be like a word on percentage, 51% female runs the show, feminine runs the show.
Hmm.
So if there's a tribe to be run as a metaphor, then the out of the two shamans that say run the tribe, the male and the female has more of the input, the way. I think I said on one of the messages was I would rather be in a society that is run by a strong, connected, divine female than any male, because look at the mess of it. And it's not just male. I'm not picking on men and women. I'm not picking on the male or the female. The demiurges and energy, or whatever they are, have come through and messed all this up. They've
Mm.
put us all out of balance.
Yeah, and I
But
mean, they make femininity about body parts, about about sexual urges, and about they've taken it to a really base level, as against like you're saying, the feminine is the expression of creativity, or the feminine is the expression of pure emotion, or the feminine more readily expresses that. The masculine's been taught to suppress that.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
and the masculine's been more readily taught how to control, or how to keep that divine feminine under control, rather than promote it to be expressed, in my opinion.
yeah. A lot of men are. Again, I'm not picking on anyone. Just something I observe. Feels like, and it looks like, a lot of men are very uneasy about a strong woman. They
Oh,
want to
yes.
control.
We were talking about that earlier. I was saying like covert narcissist versus the super empath. So an empath who becomes aware and exposes a character that wants to, control and manipulate and so the super empath will expose that character and they don't like that. So they tend to avoid us. And that's okay. I have
Mhm.
salt on the doorway that keeps them out too. Keep it on your threshold. It works. Upgrade it every now and then.
Ginger, but by the way, is predominantly in a male world. like she's
Yes.
surrounded by men.
And
She's
I want
got
to say you're not alone, Antony. Like there are many, many men in my world, and not just the ones that are closest to my heart, but many others who are drawn to the type of conversation we're having today because they also, I believe, are discovering that part of themselves that has, in some cases, guilt, shame, remorse, because they also bought into this patriarchal system that we've exited now. We're already out of it. We're very much in a cusp energy, but we're on the far end of the cusp. We're well into the high priestess energy that erupted in 1980, from my point of view. And we started to detect, I started to detect it then. And by the year 2000, the whole Y2K thing for me became more about the divine feminine and seeing that the two, I didn't have a great understanding of it then, but I could feel it. I could feel it becoming a more feminine energy. And boy, they had the world in a great amount of fear over that transition. And they continue to work on us with fear because we've exited the millennium of the magician. That's how I see it. And so numerologically, the one is the magician. The 1999 marked the end of that millennium. 1999 was the end, closed door. But we are in this cusp. Here we are 20 years later, and it very much feels, 24 years later, very much feels like it's a winding up of that energy and a stronger, even stronger than ever, emergence of this divine feminine energy that you speak of. And it's definitely the high priestess. And so with that, we become aware of the opposites because now we have an ability to perceive it. We can perceive the opposition in things that we were unable to perceive before. We're being shown new paths.
We are. And we're being shown new paths to do the internal work. And I will say, and I will keep saying, it's internal work, internal work, internal work. And a lot of people don't want to hear work. I'm tired, I've no enough work anyway. I've got to go in and do internal work. Well, it's not for everybody, but the ones that are called to do it are doing it. And I talked to a couple of other guys who are really sort of getting it, and then it's all about the internal work. Let's do this. And going through my own processes, I've had to and still do. I'm still a baby with all of it. I'm still at the beginning, and I've been working on myself for many decades. And I'm only just sort of getting on top of the tyranny inside of me, the dictator, the controller. I'm only just beginning to, I don't want to
recognize,
use the word, sorry.
recognize.
Yeah.
You
See it,
couldn't
I see
see
it
it
play out.
before. You couldn't see it before. And you didn't get that way in one day. So you can't expect to become something else. Like you've now become aware of it. So now you're right to call it work. It is work. But it's spiritual work. And you get to clear and you get to look at it from a different lens. You get to turn and say, you know what? It taught me what I needed to know. I wouldn't be able to perceive what I perceive had I not had that experience.
Exactly.
And now I can move forward from that. So by doing that, it's like allowing you, okay, it had to happen. It had to unfold like this. It's nature.
Yeah. Yeah. I suppose there's probably an impatience in us all that, we want to be better now. We want to be, I mean, a lot as
We
I
are
look at this,
better now.
yeah, as long as
It's
you're
a
moving forward,
perception. It's a
yeah, it's
perception.
yeah, yeah. As
We
long
are
as you're moving
better now.
forward, if you're better than you was an hour ago or yesterday or whatever, then you're making great progress. And if you slip back, you slip back. And if you whatever, if you make a mistake, you make a mistake. We all do, and it's part of the process. You actually have to make mistakes to actually rectify those and go, I'd rather actually go down that path. And the path has got, extremely narrow over the years. And
I
it
call
seems to
it
be,
riding the dragon.
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
riding the dragon, Antony. You're like
Yeah.
up and down, and it's like a sine wave of energy.
That's a good way to put it, riding the dragon. Yeah, because it is a narrow path, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very, very, very narrow. But, we slip off and sometimes we fall and we fall hard and we have to claw our way back up. And that's part all of it, And and not taking it too seriously. I've talked about this many times in the
What
past.
a
Like,
ride. What a ride.
and just
Again,
you
perception.
don't-
Perception.
always about perception.
How do I wish to perceive this?
One of
What is
the
the, like I open the shower curtain and I say, before I open it, I say, thank you, water, because it's a powerful cleansing tool. And I imagine myself opening the curtain to the best possible version of me, and that's all I can ask for. Like, give me the best possible version and thank you for doing it. Because I know it's already done. If I command it, if I really believe what I talk about, then I have to practice it.
Yeah,
And so that's an example of the practice. Thank you, water. Give thanks for every morsel. And you'll
mm,
notice less of that stuff that weighs us down.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Agreed.
Hmm.
Agreed.
And it's so powerful because, again, we're magnetic. And when we start to work with those forces of energy and start, instead of chasing butterflies, because they'll fly away, you're going to have a hard time catching them. I know I will. I'm not that fast anymore. You know, I'm not going to catch them. But if
Mm,
I build a beautiful butterfly garden, they'll come right to me magnetically. So it's about what we create, it's about activating that magnificent, mystical energy that you describe.
yeah.
I'm so grateful for your presence here because I think this is really high value. Other men, I feel, may think that they're the only ones, and
Right.
they're not. They're just as much a part of this journey. And I
Mm,
will say it has nothing to do with our sexuality. It's all about our perception and opening our minds to both. So
yeah.
somebody who's super empathic, how can you have then empathy instead of running from the narcissist? How can you love that person? And I hesitate to use the word narcissist because to me, that's not that's not the opposite of empathy, but I think it's commonly perceived to be that way. I see apathetic people, people who
Hmm.
could care less, as being the opposite of empathy. So, how can
Yeah.
the empath value those who are never going to take action? They're quite comfortable doing what they're doing and they don't care. You know, how do we find empathy in that opposed to being in resistance to that? How
Mm,
do we become one with that flow? How do we allow that? Because I think so many of us feel like we have a mission and we have to wake these people up. No,
Okay,
it's
let
not
me
our job.
ask you
Not
a
our job.
question. How do you love the murderer?
How do you love the murderer? Yeah, well, I can answer that question firsthand, but I'll let somebody else, if somebody else wants to have a go at that.
Okay, Anthony, how do you love the
how do I,
murderer?
how do I love the murderer? The same way I suppose I love everything, on the deepest level. If you look at, if I bring myself back and try to see a bigger picture, if I could, then everything's divine perfection in its play, in its form, how it presents itself, how it all is. When we pull itself down to this, what we're playing this avatar and playing this, and then we're hurt, and then we point fingers and we blame, while we're actually walking along outside in nature, and we tread across the ant's nest, and we kill 1,000 ants, and they've lost their partners and they've lost their children and their mother and father, and we don't care at all because we're oblivious to that. So at what level do we point and blame? I've coming out of point and blame now because I have to, because it's my guidance to, because it's predominantly about forgiveness is the only way to not blame the murderer, or for, to forgive, to maybe see it as, at some level, they had a positive intention, as crazy as that may sound to
Yeah, we wouldn't know because it
anyone.
was their pop-up world.
You don't know what their intention was behind it. So if you
No,
feel there was a positive intention, even if that was a cry for love and a
yeah,
cry for their own
okay.
compassion, a cry for their own well-being, and please, I need to be heard in such an extreme way, then there will be my compassion. Have I got there yet? No, but I watch it and I see it and I can offer compassion, and then I can't offer compassion. We're all a work in progress, and it's just part of the journey, isn't it? And maybe wherever there is, maybe we'll all get there one day.
And then if we sway off too far off the path, we become apathetic.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you go too far, like in my perception, how I love the murderer is that it's my sincere belief that it's not what happens to us in this world that shapes us, it's what we do about it.
Yeah.
And
How we
these,
choose to walk with it.
yeah, and these are the biggest lessons, you know, when a loved
Mhm.
one gets murdered, or these are the biggest lessons, these are the biggest things that can happen to us in this world. And it's what we do about it and how that shapes us and how that teaches us. And I would come to love the murderer just like you would love the demiurge for showing you that path, for
Yeah.
allowing, and that's a really higher thinking, you know, and it wouldn't make sense to somebody who'd recently lost a loved one because they'd been murdered.
No.
That conversation wouldn't make any sense to them.
And they probably wouldn't want to hear it, and probably would cuss you and call you something or whatever else, because their emotional state would be just not in a place to hear it.
Exactly.
Maybe at time they'll go through the process of grief, and they'll go through their procedure and their journey with it. They might come to it, they may not. That's not for me to judge, or not for anyone to judge. That's their journey. And
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, higher perspective and what's been bestowed upon us as we awaken through this journey, that what I said about morality earlier and what you said about is just, again, different perception. It's all our perception. And we feel that we're not powerful. We feel that we're separated from spirit, and we feel that we haven't got anything. But choice is one of our biggest superpowers.
Mm.
Absolutely agree. That's why we're here. This is the crossroads, and that's what we're doing every moment, every second. We get to choose. That's our free will. Truth,
Yeah.
like 100% law. That's land, air, water. So that's like it's up to us to
And I
adhere to what someone says about that.
change it.
In terms of accepting the murderer, I would say it's about, for me,
Yeah.
seeing that it's the same energy. Like I have to I
Loving the
work
murderer.
I work with the energy of the 5-year-old, and or the dog, or for example, like that innocence, that puppy, that they're absolutely authentic in their experience at that time. And if they like you, they let you know it, and if they don't like you, they let you know it. There's not as much masking. And so I bring it to that energy that's still within each of us, and I embrace that, and I say I love you, and I'm sorry that you had to make that choice, and I don't understand it, but yeah, I can embrace that. I don't like it. I've also say, I wonder, are we experiencing the end of anger, the end of that duality? You know, I wonder, like, what does the future hold? Because I do not think it's wise to suppress any anger. So if you do have anger about it, I think it's important for us to find healthy ways of using that anger, hitting a punching bag, for example, or getting into the garden and just getting rid of all those weeds finally, doing all that work and using the intention of using that energy to purge the body, get it out of my body,
If
put
you
it in
leave
the
it,
com
if you
put it
leave,
in the compost.
water's a great way of purging it too, like kicking
Yes.
water or
Yeah.
swimming aggressively or jumping up and down the water, or like water's a great way of purging anger.
Standing in the rain, imagining it just washing off.
Yeah.
Imagining yourself under a waterfall and having it all washed off. You don't even have
Yeah.
to touch the water. It's part of who we are. It's a major part of who we are.
Yeah. I done the screaming in the pillow not so long back for an extended.
And that's healthy.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be
Yeah.
ashamed of. That's actually a
Yeah.
very healthy thing to
Mm,
do.
mm.
Let it out. It's got to come out. It has to be expressed.
It's got to come out, because working with plant medicine for 15 years, I think it's predominantly purging.
Yeah.
It's not the prettiest way to do it either, but the mess that you see physically is obviously the spiritual mess that you've been inside.
Yeah.
It has to happen. But you don't have to actually use substances and stuff to purge on those levels if you really want to. You can instruct the body with intention
Yes.
to purge it. I was having some. I was getting dizzy, very tired, fatigued, irritable, and whatever else, and I knew there was something up. And I've been on a journey of giving up tobacco for about 10 years now. I'll call it my nemesis, my last addiction. And I go back and forward with it. I play with it and whatever else. Anyway, it's not so long back. I was having a little smoke, and it wasn't doing me any good. So I instructed the body over 3 days. I said, detox the body, purge all the toxins through the kidneys, through the liver, and dump it. And that was my instruction to the body. On the third day, I had an inclination to do a water enema. So I was like, okay, I'll do the water enema. So I'd done that. And then I spent pretty much around 3 days on the toilet, purging water uh, every half an hour. And yes, it was exhausting, but the clearness after, the reconnection with yourself and with the higher divine aspects of you was pretty much back quite quickly. The dizziness had gone, the fatigue had gone, and I was like, thank you. So you can instruct the body to shamanically
Absolutely.
do its
Yeah.
job. Yeah,
You're the commander. And
yeah,
it's important to be curious too, because it's a message. It's no different than Watigo. We get all these opportunities. It's up to us to choose what bubble, will I play with. And
yeah.
so it's an invitation to explore, why is this happening? What is the deeper meaning? There's always a deeper meaning in my experience.
I actually asked that, funny enough, and I was like, what is the meaning here? And it was like that, your suppressed emotions that you're still not allowing. So I've been in a process for the last 6 months of allowing an emotion, because I'd been predominantly sick, very, very unwell for the last maybe 6 or 7 years. It's only been this year I've actually started really healing from it, because of allowance of emotions. They're all allowed. All my emotions are allowed. And just by saying that to myself, they're allowed.
You're allowed to
Stop.
express them.
You
Yeah, you're
surrender.
allowed to
I
express them.
call that
Yeah,
surrendering.
You
That's what
just
I'm saying about the surrender.
you're
Yes.
allowed to express them. It's just finding the correct place to express those emotions. Like you say, if it's a pillow, it's a pillow. If it's the water, if it's the water. If it's a punching bag, it's a punching bag. If it's your girlfriend, it's your girlfriend. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
wherever it's appropriate.
I would also say along the journey, what I found was, just by saying to myself, you're allowed, didn't necessarily have to elicit a response. Oh, I'm allowed to have those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Mm.
right. And then that reduced some suppression, tension. And I'm like,
You,
right,
And
you
that's
did
got
right.
out of
did it also
resistance because otherwise we're resisting. By allowing, you did the opposite of resisting. And we
Yeah.
get in that eternal energy. It's a dance.
what
It's an
about
Mm.
energetic tango, if you
okay.
will, that we cannot disengage from until we change the story. And by saying I allow, just like that, you broke the spell.
Okay, so what about the control? Are you allowed to control?
What do
If
you think you have control of, Kim? I'm not having a 404 moment here. It's not computing control.
Yeah, that's the perfect way to put it. Yeah.
It's kind of a gamble. Like it's gonna work. It's gonna work, and sometimes it works.
Really? It
Yeah,
really
yeah.
works?
Get rid of that resistance. It's gonna work. I can do it. Sometimes I can.
It's more like controlling the path, like making the decision. What am I talking about? I don't know. I lost it now.
I want to jump to the illusion, because we all, our reality is an illusion, and that's how I see it. The illusion is our perception of what we are energetically projecting and or magnetically attracting. And so it's our projection. It's the illusion is our perception of the projection. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
You get that,
So
Anthony.
Yeah, I mean, I sit on the fence with everything, to be honest, and I put everything on the table. I'm not trying to box anything into any label or whatever else because I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know,
What a
we're
ride.
just all playing, aren't we? We're playing with it. We're all trying to find where we are. And I mean, I'll say things that come out and said as like they might come across as fact, but I've never said anything as fact. We're all trying to, you know, play with it. But it's like what you said, Kim, you know, about that control. I mean, like, do we even have any free will whatsoever? Is the book written? And I don't know if you've ever read these books, guys, but you get a book, and sometimes in these certain books you get to a page and you can go to page 141 or 242, and there's the book's written. You're not changing that book.
Right.
But within the book, there's the illusion, there's the idea, there's the perception that you have free will choice to move around the book to have a different story, but the book's still written.
Yes.
So is everything sort of preordained and predestined and whatever else? And you know, millions of people have pondered this over many periods of time. But you know, that boils down to, you know, that control thing. Do we have what, you know, what even is controlled? Is it just that that's just another concept? That's just another idea.
To me, it's about, for me personally, it's about whatever makes my path easier, right? So,
But why would you want your path easier? What is wanting it easier to achieve?
well, I mean, less stress, really. I mean, less stress in my world. Then easy is probably a wrong word, but I will take the option that will create less stress in my world.
But again, is it your perception of what is happening? Because what is happening is you're having a thought, and then you're putting a meaning to the thought, and then there's a feeling from that thought that you're putting a meaning to as well, and then you having a sensation happen through the body, which then you're putting another thought to, which is tense in the body, and you're going, I don't like that.
Yeah, I'm not talking about avoidance here. I'm really good at voicing an objection to something that makes me
Right.
feel uncomfortable. I'm
Right.
not talking about avoidance strategy. I'm
Okay.
talking about a bigger picture of not trying to control the world outside of me, but saying, well, this actually, to me, it's about going with the flow, or feeling you're not in the flow.
Yeah.
If you're
Okay.
getting
Yeah.
a lot of resistance on the path that you're currently on, then the message is this is not really the flow. This is causing unnecessary stress. Why am I doing this? What am I trying to achieve here? What am I trying to prove? I'm talking about more that. I'm talking
Right.
about more getting myself into the flow. And then when I get in the flow, it's like my life gets really busy, full of nothing, but it's flowing nothingness. It's like, oh, I'm doing this. Oh, I'm doing that. Oh, I'm doing this. Oh, I'm over here. Oh, I'm over there. And I'm suddenly really busy just doing stuff rather than worrying about what's actually happening. Whereas when I'm out of the flow, I'm more inclined to want to control my life, which is actually often full of resistance.
Mm.
Does that make any sense, what I just said?
Maybe what Ginger said earlier was about surrendering and letting go, and in that letting go, there's the letting go of the resistance to it, and just being the observer and being the awareness and just watching the play out for itself. I think when we get too involved and we forget we're observing it, and we forget that we're the divine essence watching it all,
Yes.
and we
And
keep
I
letting this go.
also, yeah, and I think it's important to recognize that if it's in your highest good, then it'll be yours, you know. And so to ask for whatever it is that you perceive to want, whether it's comfort and ease, like I don't see anything wrong with asking for comfort and ease. But give thanks for it and then let go. Absolutely let go, knowing that it's yours. If it's meant to be yours, it's yours. And if it's not yours, there's an underlying vibration. And that vibration could be linked to emotions, it could be linked to your thought forms, because we create our Watigo. We create that demiurge, we create the Ahriman, we call it, we attract it, so if we spend too much time staring at it, we become it, so it's really about
Or fighting with it. Or fighting
yeah,
with it.
or fighting with it. Like that's the last thing I want to do. It's pointless. And that's exactly what that energy wants. It wants to trap you in that energy of fight, flight, freeze. And, this is what Paul Levine is trying to help us escape from. And, the Watigo conversations, and there's some really great techniques. Is this the same gentleman that does somatic healing? I'm not sure now. Um,
Um,
I think they might share the same or similar name. Anyway, so Watigo is Paul Levine, correct, Antony?
Levy, Levi,
Levy. Okay, so then Paul Levine is
right?
responsible for somatic healing, which is
Okay.
recognizing that these thought forms are within our body and
Right.
taking, people who suffer from uh, diagnosed PTSD. We've all got it, as far as I'm concerned. But people who feel like there's no way I can't do this anymore. And he'll really help them pinpoint, like just with muscle testing, even, like, is this like, show me something that feels really good to you? And they push on your arm and your arm doesn't resist. Now, show me your weak spot and your arm falls as soon as
Mm,
they touch it. It's like, and you can feel it, your body responding to these suggestions that you allow someone in your energy field to make. That other person is in control of your field in that moment when
right.
you're
Interesting.
listening and responding. You're allowing your body to respond to somebody else.
Mm,
You can do that for yourself. You can test, is this right for me? Is this right for me? What do I need right now? So to
Show me.
become very, very
Show me.
curious,
Show me, Ginger.
less, yeah, less control, more
No,
curious.
no, show me. Show
Show
me.
me how it works.
Yeah, you show me. Yeah.
Is this right for me right now? Do I need this right now? And I hear, I feel, I listen, I get it. Like if it's right for me, I'm having it. And if it's not right for me, I might get it right there and say, you know what, I don't actually need that right now. I'm good, and
So,
so and
so
that
you're just
it's
centering down on what you're feeling.
in every moment, being aware of what the needs are in every moment and not ignoring them, because this I feel is where disease and illness come from. And so if we're feeling uncomfortable, if we're feeling like we're on the wrong path, or we're like low vibrational anger, guilt, shame, fear, that's wrong vortex. We got to shift, we got to rise, we got to lift. We're the only ones responsible for our energy. So what we attract is our responsibility. I've often talked about leaving the house with a smile. Get yourself into that space because you're going out into the big scary world of possibilities.
mm,
All these other, you're going to bump into all these other bubbles that are magnetically attracted to your vibration. So if you're vibrating fear, anger, shame, guilt, you're going to get loads of it. There's plenty out there. And if likewise, if you're vibrating, like I used to pretend I don't go out very much because it's really complicated out there. I like my little bubble right here. um, but out in that world, I would pretend to be Freya, and I was untouchable, unfuckwithable. I'm 10 feet tall, 3 feet off the ground. I shifted my perception. I thought if I can have an illusion, I'm going to choose what illusion I'm going to have. And
mm,
I
Uh-huh.
started to really feel that. And this is where I think you do you boo came from, Kim. For me, it was like in that experience of elevating my superpowers and allowing that higher vortex to guide me. And I put myself in a very busy atmosphere of energy. And I wondered, I don't know if I can do this. But as Freya, I pulled it off, and I don't know if I want to do it right now. But if I pretend I'm Freya, if I create that little illusion and try and have fun, lift my own spirit, it's my job.
mm,
That's my only job here.
yeah.
That's it.
Uh-huh.
only save ourselves. No one can do it for us.
Nobody else.
Okay. Listen, guys, I'm about to wind this up. Is there anything else that you want to talk about before we finish
I
this
think the
today?
three of us could go for days,
I
but
know.
yeah, we could wind up now, Kim.
Okay. And anything else you want to say, Anthony, before we wind it up?
No, that's absolutely fine. Just we do it again, and I'm sure, like Ginger said, we could probably do it for days. So just
Yeah.
save
Yeah.
Let's do it
some
again.
other conversations for another time. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Anthony's got his own channel, so I'll give you a link to that before afterwards. And I'll link it in the chat. I'll get my language right in a minute. It's late. That's my excuse. I will link it. Right, that's easy. I just want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us, Anthony. That was great. Ginger,
That was fun.
you
Thank
did
you. Yeah.
fabulous.
I really enjoyed it. Really
Love your
really
enjoyed it.
good.
feedback.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was really
Yeah.
good.
Really great.
Okay, and if you want to comment anything below, feel free to comment. And thanks for listening. Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone.